I'm speaking with Lee Gambin, author and editor of The Howling, Studies in the Horror Film. Thank you for speaking with me.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good to be on.
So, first, tell me, how did you get into studying and writing about this subject? And you can go all the way back to the beginning.
Right, well, I always loved the film. I remember distinctly the first screening I ever saw of it, which was on Channel 9 in Australia here, obviously, back in the 80s. And it played, funnily enough, from memory, right after Sybil, which is the made-for-TV movie with Sally Field and Joanne Woodward. And I remember seeing that, and that really haunted me into staying to see The Howling as well. And what I loved ultimately about The Howling, as well as it being such a brilliant film, a perfect film, and a werewolf movie and a monster movie, which I grew up loving, was the fact that it was a community of werewolves. So it was kind of the first time as a kid remembering seeing a film where basically it was a community of werewolves, a whole group of them, rather than one rogue werewolf that you were used to seeing in, the Lon Chaney films like The Wolfman and stuff. So it was really cool to understand that and grasp that, just to have these incredibly diverse werewolf characters living together in this colony, this community, where they were all trying to get help, which I thought was interesting and fun. And I loved, obviously, the special effects and Rob Bottin's beautiful work and all the performances in it, all the great character actors like Flynn Pickens and John Carradine, and Dee Wallace's amazing tour de force performance. She's just brilliant, and Untitled Chapter is so great as well. So all the elements are perfect. I think Joe Dante really created this incredible film. So as a teenager, obviously my obsession with the film grew. But as a teenager, I remember trying to find writing on The Howling, and there wasn't much. There's a great book called American Nightmares, which is essays of the modern horror film, and there's a great essay in that with the Funhouse. Toby Hooper's The Funhouse also examined alongside it. And there were some bits and pieces here and there talking about The Howling and John Sayles' incredible script and the role of the media in the film, and, the idea of oppression and repressing, the beast in all of us, all that sort of stuff. There was all this great writing. There was minimal great writing on it, I found. And so I thought this film deserves a full, dedicated book that will examine the film and its themes. But also, because what I do with my writing is balance that critical analysis with heat for production history, because I feel like if you're going to write about movies made from the 70s and 80s, chances are most people are still alive. So it's best to interview them and give them a voice, because it's not just your own reading into these films, it's everyone who worked in these films. And I was exhaustive in my coverage, so I got everyone from Joe Dante and Dee Wallace and Dick Miller and Robert Picardo and Belinda Belasky, all the way through to people like Catherine Keane, who worked on the werewolf sex scene. She did the animation for that. Richard Hedcox, who did all the Eddie Quist drawings. Everyone basically I could grab, and they're all in there. And some people obviously couldn't do interviews or weren't available. So it sort of grew from that, and that sort of started a few years ago now. So basically, just to answer your question, I fell in love with the movie as a kid. Love it to death. It's a comfort movie, one of the many comfort movies of mine. Werewolves are probably my favourite movie monster. I've written endlessly on werewolf films. It grew from there, and I just decided to do this book, which is a scene-by-scene breakdown and heavy analysis, as well as loads of production history and mammoth amounts of quotes and interviews with cast and crew. Plus, on top of that, never-before-seen photos, production stills, documents throughout the making of the film, artwork, call sheets, all that sort of stuff is in there. So it's going to be pretty nice, pretty looking book.
So you said, werewolves are your favorite monster. And, Howling is your favorite. Did it, with all the previous werewolf writing that you did on werewolves, you didn't want to start with The Howling? I guess, did you build up till, right, yeah. So I've been writing forever, but professionally for the last, say, 12, 13, actually 15 years now, too. So 15 years of professional writing, and I'd be doing essays here and there, and interviews here and there, and, critical studies sort of pieces on werewolf cinema.
But the Howling was always kind of a recurring point of reference throughout it. Even if I was talking about something like, She-Wolf of London with June Lockhart, I would bring in the Howling. So, that film's all about gaslighting. It's not really a werewolf movie. June Lockhart sort of forced to believe that she's a werewolf. And there's all that sort of, woman in turmoil who's sort of questioning her own mental stability, and that's the Howling as well, because you have Dee Wallace going through this sort of, endless turmoil, hearing the howling in the woods and stuff, which is sort of made to feel crazy, which is terrific. So all that stuff when I've been writing about werewolf films, and heavily, more so recently, the Howling, Joe Dante's film, would always find its way in there. If I'm writing about Curse of the Werewolf, I'd bring in the Howling references, the Wolfman, or, all those Universal films, or the Mexican stuff. So all this sort of comes back to the Howling. And because what I also love about the Howling is it's got so much depth, as well as being a fun, cool monster movie that looks terrific. It also has all this kind of really political, socially aware commentary that Joe Dante loves, and his screenwriter, John Sayles, who wrote films like Alligator and Piranha, for Joe as well, really, is amazing at and really good at, really injecting, social commentary and political awareness in the film. And in The Howling, it's all about, the role of the media, miscommunication, the whole thing about excellent sort of living, this whole thing that was going on during the 70s and 80s, the whole self-help thing, and questioning that, questioning, organised groups and organised religions and sects. All that sort of stuff is peppered throughout The Howling. It's really smart and delivered and executed beautifully. So I love all that, and to be a werewolf film on top of all that is incredible, So yeah.
So let's talk about the book. How do you divide up the chapters? How do you approach the different parts of the movie that you wanted to explore?
Oh, well, if anyone's familiar with my book on Cujo, it's pretty much going to be the same sort of setup. So what I do is I'll watch the movie over and over again and analyse it and write about it and research it. So research all the production history, all the elements that came together. And what I do is I structure it chapter by chapter, by scene by scene. So I'll break it down scene by scene and discuss all the stuff that's going on within the text. And then also research all the production history behind those scenes in question. So it becomes this whole scene-by-scene analysis and scene-by-scene construction of how the film was made and how it was delivered and executed and performed, etc. And then within that, I'll interview cast and crew, and for whatever appropriate scene I'm talking about or discussing or writing about, I'll have their quotes, their slabs of quotes integrated within that text. So if I'm talking about the sequence in the porn store in The Howling, I'll talk to Dee about her feelings on that. And then later, when I'm talking about the sequence where she turns into a werewolf, her quote on that sequence will be, referenced in the writing. So it's kind of that, basically a whole scene-by-scene breakdown. And that's a really easy, nice, clean way of doing this kind of, extensive making-of books. It's really a nice way to sort of present it. So you can walk through the movie, and then refer to the text, the subtext, the text, and the production history as the film and the book progresses. And
I saw in the description the book has a lot of stills from the movie itself. Did you have any trouble getting those stills and using them in the book?
I'm blessed, absolutely blessed with the generosity of people. I've done a few books now. I did a book on musicals of the 70s, and there was a whole bunch of people who had so much amazing stuff that I could contribute to the book. The same goes with the Cujo book. So much amazing stuff from, cast and crew, and on-set photographers. And with The Howling, it's no different. I've had amazing generosity from Joe Dante. Like, he sent me a whole bunch of great photos. The on-set photographer, she also sent me a bunch of photos. I had original art given to me from the artists who worked on the film. A private collector. So all these things came to me, through these wonderfully generous people, and that's great, so beautiful to have. And yeah, they're all throughout that book, and it's beautiful, and it looks really lovely. So I've seen the galleys, and I'm really proud of what it looks like. It's a really Centipede Press. The publisher have done an incredibly good job, and if you know their books, you know how attractive their books are. Their Salem Block book, or their Exorcist book, or their Carrie book. Just really beautiful work.
Did you discover any themes or issues as you were examining the film? Anything that you came across that maybe you hadn't seen before, or maybe you don't want to discuss it and you want people to read about it? But I'll let you address the question.
Well, I mean, there's one thing that was really interesting that struck me is the strange connection the film had to, I don't know if you know about the case of Christine Chubbuck. She was the woman who was from Florida, I believe. She was a Florida journalist who, on air, killed herself. She shot herself on air. And that footage has gone missing. Since gone missing. There's been a couple of documentaries, and a biopic and a documentary called Kate Plays Christine about it, and I recommend the documentary. It's really good. But basically, that whole sequence was supposedly inspirational to Paddy Chayefsky's Network, which is that stunning film with Faye Dunaway and Peter Finch and William Holden. But that case happened after Network. But John Sayles was quite influenced by the case of Christine Chubbuck, who was this woman who basically said, if you want violence, I'll give you violence, and killed herself on air, which is really full on, and he sort of used that in the sequence where Dee turns into a werewolf and is killed by Dennis Dugan on air. This whole idea of the media perception and ratings and all that sort of stuff, playing into each other, because Kevin McCarthy's character is obsessed with ratings and, showcasing, the news in a kind of entertainment way and method. So it's that kind of stuff was interesting. And also hearing about different things that the cast and crew told me that were just incredibly interesting, such as, for instance, Joe Dante and the producer Mike Fennell considering using real wolves in the film, and then going to see Lou Shoemaker, who was one of the leading wolf specialists in film. He worked on films like Day of the Animals, the William Girdler film, and then sort of going to an enclosure where there were these wolves with Rob Bottin as well, and being terrified of these wolves, because you can't really train wolves. And thankfully they went with the option of the special effects, which is much better. But yeah, so all these kind of tidbits are great. Just the nods to all these other films within the film. There's a whole bunch of stuff in that book, it's incredible. And everyone's really candid and quite open about their experiences on set. And it's great to hear. And also just hearing about people's methods of acting and their own personal lives as well, and how it informs their performance styles. So, for instance, the wonderful Don McLeod, who has been an absolute legend in the creation of this book. He played T.C. Quist because it's just been so helpful and giving. He told me stories about his past as a child, where he would relate more to animals, to dogs and cats, and really wouldn't talk much and speak much, but he'd relate to animals more, and that kind of informed his career as well as an adult, because he becomes Hollywood's go-to chimp. He'd play apes a lot. But he plays this wolf boy, this T.C. Quist, who's my favourite of the werewolves. It's so cool. And I love Margie Insert Donna. She's a great werewolf as well, because she's this nutsy, fruity, ex-hippie type. And I love all that sort of stuff, and having her involved, it's her first ever interview about the Howling, and she gives incredible, in-depth, insight. So getting people who've never talked about it, people who were surprised that they'd want me to talk to them about it, like Herb Braha, who played the porno cashier, who just passed away a couple of years ago, actually. So just after the interview, maybe a few months after. And just also finding the beautiful connective tissue between everyone involved in film, because Herb was in the original production of Godspell, and when I wrote on Godspell, the movie, the 73 film for the musicals book, I thought, look, I'm going to ask, Gilmer Cormack, who I interviewed for that, or Robin Lamont, who I interviewed for that, to see if they still keep in touch, and they did. So it was good to have those connections, like the idea of people sort of working together and having this long history of film and theatre all connecting, and, because I've always said everything good is connected, and I think there's a beautiful circle of artists who work together and have worked on different things, and that's the whole coulnd't tradition and the whole even Joe Dante tradition. So it's that cool thing of community there, which I think is fun. But yeah, it was a fun ride, but it seems like it's such a long time ago since I finished it. It's taken a while to get out there, but it will be here soon.
Yeah, good. So, over the year, there are all those monster magazines, the popular monster magazines and sci-fi magazines of the 80s and stuff. Did they have, were there a lot of interviews with people who worked on the Howling in those? Did you reference those at all?
Yeah, Fangoria did a piece when it first came out. Remember the photo of Elizabeth Brooks on the sidebar. I remember Famous Monsters had stuff on the Howling. There was a lot of coverage when the film came out, absolutely. And then they had revivals, and then I remember I did, with my friend Kai, she and I had the pleasure of meeting Joe Dante when he was here in Melbourne for the Melbourne Film Festival. And we did a joint interview with a bunch of other journos, and we talked about the Howling because we were doing this whole piece of Fangoria on the anniversary of the Howling, and that was really fun, that was cool. But yeah, the Howling pops up here and there, and everyone always refers to it as one of their favourite werewolf movies. That and American Werewolf in London always get, favourite werewolf film. And I always get cranky when people try and compare them because they're two different films entirely. And everyone sort of seems to sort of go, are you a Howling fan or an American Werewolf fan? I'm always correcting them, going, no, they're two very different movies. Anyway, blah, blah. So yeah, the idea of famous monster magazines from the past covering it, absolutely, yeah. But I feel like, what this book does for it is, a definitive overall, exhaustive account from the film. So I'm pretty proud of it, and I hope people enjoy it. And I hope, more importantly, that the people who worked on the film, from Mark Goldblatt to John Hora to G.G. Williams, all these people enjoy reading it as well.
Can you talk about other resources you used to do your research? Did you come across film outtakes or anything else that you haven't mentioned before that you used?
There's a lot of stuff with the Dave Allen stop motion that I researched, which was the stop motion werewolf stuff. The deleted scene sequences. This is all a lot of info from production crews, and also cast who remember shooting that stuff. So there's a lot more sort of group therapy stuff. There's a lot more stuff to do with the John Carradine character and the Margie Ingberg character. There was stuff that was, taken out of the film because it was just bogging the film down and unnecessary. Subplots that were kind of interesting that I liked, that were unnecessary and complicated things. There was a whole thing where the Dennis Dugan character actually secretly had kind of a thing for Karen, for Dee Wallace's character, and Belinda Velasquez's character, who's his colleague and girlfriend, senses it and all this sort of stuff. There was a sequence where Marsha, the werewolf, and Dee Wallace's character meet in the woods and have this confrontation over Bill, the husband. So there's all this stuff that was in there that I thought was interesting, and a lot of that's sort of covered in and referred to in the amazing audio commentary from Joe Dante and Dee Wallace and co. on the DVD of The Howling, and there's also that great documentary, Unleashing the Beast, from Laurence Bervieux, who does a great job in documenting film and doing making of documentaries. But this goes deeper, and also the idea of getting as many people as I could involved, you get all those different angles. So just hearing Peter Coran, who worked on Star Wars and a whole bunch of things, talking about the opening titles with the Howling logo and the ripping of making up the W and the title card smashing. All that stuff's incredible. Like, it's amazing to listen to and to read about. So all that research sort of came organically from people's insight because they were there, but then they were working on the film. So that was always fun. Originally, the book was going to be a lot bigger. It was going to have a lot more on all werewolf stuff and I wrote a whole lot of stuff on different werewolf movies that I was going to sort of, bookend the book with. It was going to be werewolf movie pre-Howling and post-Howling. But the publisher said, no, let's just keep it about the Howling, and, let's do this, 300 to 400 page book all on just the Howling. I was going to include the sequels originally, and thank God I didn't. But so it's a very, very tight, celebration of this wonderful, perfect film from '81.
Did you get to handle or see any of the props or set design stuff or anything like that?
No, a lot of stuff's gone missing. So, I'm here in Oz doing all this research. So there's nothing that was sent to me or given, besides pictures. So, digitally scanned pictures, and also pictures, hard copy pictures as well. Cris, for instance, I got a lot of stuff given to me from the producer, Richard Cobritz, that was hard copy, which I had to scan through, and he was lovely enough to let me keep them, which is nice. That was also from Salon's Lot stuff as well. But as far as the Howling, props and things, no, I wish things were still around. I'm sure Rob Bottin has some stuff still around, absolutely, but as far as other things, no. I know that I remember sort of asking Don if he still kept his lamb wool vest. And I know Belinda Belasky has her runners still, her sneakers still, that you see a close-up on when she's being killed by Eddie Quick. But other than that, no, I didn't get to handle anything, which would have been awesome. My God, absolutely. Like if there was a surviving, stop-motion Dave Allen werewolf, that would be really cool to hack.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing I got to touch with it.
So you mentioned a lot of stuff you loved about doing this research, but is there anything that really stands out as the most enjoyable part of researching this book?
I think talking to these people and keeping in touch with them. And I feel like, I'm doing a small part for film history where I'm kind of keeping things alive, and I think these people appreciate that and love that, and I really respect that, because I think what I really urge film writers and critics to do is always, if people are alive, give them a voice to talk about this work that they've done, because yes, your criticism is important, and yes, your analysis is incredibly important, but it's also super vitally important to have the people who work on these films, these artists who work on these films, to be given a platform to talk about this stuff, because it is important. And so yeah, I think that's what I treasure most about all this sort of stuff. And I've interviewed, loads of people, in the last, 15 or so years. And for the most part, I've kept touch with all of them, and that's something that is amazing and important. And then you can kind of call people friends, which is really cool. And jump on the phone just to gas bag and not have to do work stuff, which is really fun. But just as far as answering your question, the most enjoyable thing would be that, yeah, I'd say so. The idea of connecting and hearing all this incredible insight that you would never know just from snippets here and there on a documentary or in an article, and getting really nitty gritty in the depths of all this stuff. It's an important thing, and it's fascinating to document.
Yeah. So you mentioned one surprising thing you found, a thread in your research, but is there anything else that stands out as maybe the most surprising thing you discovered, or as surprising?
For the Howling?
Yes.
Oh, God. There's a lot. I mean, I want people to buy the book, see?
Yeah.
But I think one of them would be all the stuff about Bob Burns, the art director, who seemed like such an interesting guy. He directed a film actually called Mongrel, which is incredible. I wrote about it. You can find it on Diabolique.com, which is the website and magazine that I co-edit with Kat Allinger. And I wrote on Mongrel because I think it's a really smart, interesting film. It's a really grimy film that he made, and obviously there's the art direction for, about a guy who sort of channels the spirit of a dog and goes crazy and has a kind of bisexual kind of lust after this beautiful young girl and this equally beautiful young man, and it's a weird film, very personal film, I feel, for this guy from Burns. So Bob Burns, hearing about him from Joe Dante and Mark Fennell and other people, Ronald Picardo, it was really interesting because his life would have been such an interesting thing, and he died tragically early. But he also did the art direction for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He worked on So Good He Could Salem's Lot. You'll find a lot of all the stuff in the Marsden house when Bonnie Bedelia is walking through that. You'll find a lot of that stuff is replicated from, stuff from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And also the grandmother, the skeleton grandmother, pops up in the Howling in Dick Miller's bookshop. So just hearing about him and just how he designed stuff and his weirdness, and his kind of introverted sort of nature and how he was, that was interesting to research, because I feel like he's sort of underappreciated, but I feel like this book sort of gives him, even though he's gone, kind of a voice, a pseudo voice. But yeah, no, that kind of stuff was always interesting. But yeah, there's heaps of stuff in the research that I felt, wow, this is really cool, that I thought was really fun to sort of go through and dive into. The way Ronald Picardo, for instance, is a genius, not only as an actor, but also as how he creates characters. So I researched his theatre career before The Howling, because The Howling was his first film. And he did a wonderful play called Gemini, where he plays this guy who's kind of, basically dealing with duality. And so I sort of, my angle was that in response to Eddie Quick. And he was really responsive to that. And it was cool because I guess other people probably wouldn't even think about talking about someone's theatre career outside of, the monster movie they did. And I think that's, important as well, because then as craft people, as actors, they kind of bring, some actors, not all, bring in elements of other roles they've done for the roles they're taking on. But all that sort of stuff was really cool and fascinating to do. Dee Wallace, my God, she's amazing. She's a superb storyteller and, so amazing to talk to and to listen to and inspiring and life-affirming, and just to talk to her, multiple, I'm friends with her, but, to have these in-depth conversations with her about The Howling or Cujo and where she goes as an actress is just fascinating. Belinda Velasquez as well, so wonderfully insightful and candid, and just about her technique, and because she's so naturalistic and so organic, and really, really, really sort of the epitome of that kind of 70s and 80s actress of that sort of age bracket. The way she sort of presents herself and performs, it's just beautiful to watch and to hear her talk about that. But yeah, all that stuff, it all came together, and it's a meaty book with a lot of stuff, a lot of info.
Yeah. Was there a question that you were struggling to find an answer for that maybe you finally did reach a conclusion, or maybe you still are grappling with? And you don't have to say what you discovered at the end, but was there something that really you were trying to dig in and find out about?
I mean, I think I got most of what I wanted. Yeah. But yeah, I can't think of anything specific though.
So there was no question out there that you had to ask a lot of the people about, what about this particular thing? I still don't get how this happened.
Okay, I mean, one thing that kept coming up with the characters who played the werewolves was the green spoon contact lenses that caused a lot of issue with a lot of the cast. So Margie Impert talked about that and how she couldn't wear them, and that's why in the film you guys see her in the contact, or even bearing fangs. There's a wonderful production still with her and John Carradine, and she has the fangs in place and the contact. But that was a recurring thing about the different people who played Jim Murtaugh, who played her husband, Jerry, and all these other people, John McLeod, they all talked about the contact lenses. So there was that kind of thing, where there was this really interesting correlative tissue between people talking about the same thing and bringing up the same thing, and there was a nice consistency, which I liked. So that kind of thing, I think, that kind of answers your question, I guess. So that would inform my questioning afterwards. So they would be like, well, tell us about the contact lenses and what they were like. And, you know, all of them had the same kind of response. So that was interesting. But yeah.
Was there anything you discovered that emotionally moved you in some way, either positively or negatively?
As far as, I don't think anything negative, but as far as positive, most definitely that the film was, in D. Wallace's forward to the book, that the film was a really nice, positive, community-feeling vibe. It was, you know, Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland was put on a show thing, and that's what I like about these small independent horror films of this period. I feel like all of them, like Howling and all these movies, were that kind of nice, collaborative. You know, we're doing things with a small budget, but we're going to make it as excellent, as bloody beautiful, and as perfect as it can be, and they did. So I love that, and just resourcing all this artistry, and doing this incredible, creating this incredible product that says so much and looks so good, and it's all based on just people working hard and doing long hours and committed to the craft and just delivering this terrific story. And make sure that this werewolf film looks and sounds and feels and presents as wonderful as it can, and they did a superb job. So that kind of thing, the idea of, you know, Dee and her husband, Cris, who's no longer with us, of course, just working together, and Joe building this community, this sense of community with his cast and crew, and Mike Fennell as well, the producer, doing that. And just having that sense of, family, which I think is lovely, really moving.
At what point do you think the cast and crew realized that it was more than just a fun film that they were making, that they created something, you know, really kind of special and enduring?
For the most of the part, the interviews was when they first saw the film. Because when they were making the film, for the most part, they were like, okay, cool, yeah, I get where it's going, but I can't really clearly see where it's going. Because a lot of the stuff relied heavily on the equipped full werewolf, the costume and the animatronics and stuff to be fully functioning and working. So a lot of times they were working for nothing, so Dee would be reacting to no werewolf, or just stands in. And when they finally saw the film, that's when they all went, okay, this is brilliant, like it's a brilliant, perfect film. And it was a success, you know, it did really well. So, and now, oh my God, it's like, you know, one of the most important films of the early 80s, really, as far as I'm concerned, and really set the standard, and was a game changer, and was a perfect combination of the celebration of yesteryear, which is what Joe, you know, fully, wholeheartedly embraces. I love hearing him talk as a film historian as well as a filmmaker. And also really inventive and very modern. Very, very modern and hip. But yeah, no, I think that's when they all sort of realised it was that they worked on something amazingly, you know, strong and dynamic, is when they first all saw the film.
So what do you hope the book will ultimately do?
Just champion and give eternal life to the Howling, which, I mean, the Howling already has that. You know, it's going to live forever. But I feel like it's, you know, a nice tribute to this perfect film, this incredible film, this wonderful creation that Joe Dante and his team, you know, weaves together and delivered. And I think what it will also do is make maybe other film writers appreciate the voice of people who worked on film. So I don't want to, you know, if you're writing about things in the 30s and 40s, I get it. It's going to be tricky to find people. But if you're writing about the 70s and 80s, and for the most part, all these people are obsessed with those periods of film, which is fine. But just remember, everyone, there's a friggin' lot more before it as well, before those decades, to, you know, relish and enjoy and love. That you should also, these people should search and branch out and reach out and interview these people to give them a voice. So I feel like this book, this Howling book, through Centipede Press, is a document of a film and how it was created, a tribute to werewolves in film, a tribute to independent filmmaking, a tribute to monster movies, a testament to hard work and how hard work, you know, with hard work and through hard work, good things come. And just like a fun ride, critical ride, analytical thing. You know, it's written by someone who really, really loves this film. Okay, so you're going to get a lot of love in the book as well, I think.
So I think you mentioned before, what's your next writing project?
Okay, so the next book I'm working on at the moment is a book all about very special episodes from TV sitcoms. So basically, all these TV sitcoms from the 70s and 80s primarily, and some 90s, and even some early examples from the 60s, that dealt with serious subject matter. So if you think of, like, you know, different strokes dealing with bulimia or, you know, rape or whatever, or facts of life dealing with, you know, people with cerebral palsy or shoplifting or drug addiction or anorexia or, you know, all these TV shows that sort of dealt with those subjects. So I'm doing that, I'm editing that and contributing, but I've got a whole bunch of incredible writers on board, and we're taking on every single episode that is deemed a very special episode. Plus, a bunch of essays on shows that kind of have overriding very special themes all the way through them, like Mary Tyler Moore Show or Cheers. But yeah, it's going to be a really cool, big, fat book, probably the same sort of size as the musical book, which was clocked at about 800 pages.
Wow.
So this will be the same kind of thing, yeah. And then also, I've just finished the making of Cris book, which is, you know, was so much fun. Such a smooth ride. Just a really smooth ride. I think it only really took me a bit over a year. And that's got 20 interviewees from the cast and crew, including John Carpenter and Alexander Paul and Keith Gordon and Roy Arbogast, who built the cars. And that's another same sort of deal where it's basically scene by scene and integrated slabs of quotes from everyone. So it's another official making of book, which will be fun. And that should come out in December. So the Howling book is meant to be coming out end of October, around Halloween time, and Christine by the end of the year. And then I'll focus primarily on this very special episodes book, which I hope to see a release of it in possibly early 2010. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on. And also I run a film society here called Cinemania, and we just did our first film journal, which is all about scarecrows in film and TV. So we cover everything in that, from The Wiz to Scarecrows to Dark Night of the Scarecrow to The Wizard of Oz and all its incarnations, to Journey Back to Oz, to Wurzel Gummidge, basically every Dr. Sin, Night Creatures, everything is in there that has a scarecrow in it.
Oh, wow.
That's going to be cool as well.
That is cool. So you mentioned one website before. Where can people find online the book and also any other writings you do, social media, websites, whatever?
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I write for a bunch of different places. Diabolique is one. I'm writing for Fangoria again when it starts again, it reboots. God, there's a number of things. What I'm mainly doing at the moment, a lot of, is audio commentaries. So a lot of audio commentaries for Kino Lorca, mostly, who are an incredible company. God bless them. They're amazing, and they release these incredible films. A diverse amount of films. So I've done commentaries for films like The Reincarnation of Peter Proud, The Jericho Mile, Country with Jessica Lange, Orca for Umbrella. I did a joint commentary with Alexandra Nicholas, who's a good friend and another film critic, on Carrie. But I've done, you know, a whole bunch of things The Day After. So all these things that I've done at the moment are commentary-based, so lots of talking. But I've been doing a lot of writing as well. But yeah, you can find, I mean, if you just Googled me, you'd be able to find a bunch of writing and a bunch of stuff that I've done. And the books are all available on Amazon, or the publishers directly as well, like Bandana Media, who are brilliant, and I have to give a shout out to Ben Omart, who just does so much for film history. If Leonard Moulton, you know, champions your company, you know you're doing something right. And he does amazing stuff with, you know, film and theatre and TV and animation history, which is just brilliant. And the Cujo book and the Christine book and the musicals book are all out through them. the Howling, so would be through Centipede Press. So if you go to their website, it'll be there. I think the pre-orders are coming. I'm a bit of a nuisance to the publisher. I'm like, when is it bloody coming out? And they're kind of sick of me, I think. But it'll be there soon. But because of the folks that want this book, I'm like, I'm as eager as you are to see this book. But if you just look me up, you'll find some stuff. And also check out the film site that I do, the film collective, cinemaniacs.net. So,
okay.
CINEMANIACS.net. .net. So you find stuff there as well.
Okay. So you don't have a social media platform or anything like that, Twitter? Or...
Really, I'm just not really. I have like the Facebook pages for the book.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have like a blog or anything. I guess I bypassed all that, and my first writing jobs were with Fangoria. So.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure on that. So that's all the questions I have. Do you have any final thoughts or words?
No, I reckon that was brilliant. Thank you so much, Cris. That's a lot of stuff.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit CrisAlvarez.com or theartofsciencefiction.com for more great interviews, photos, and articles. Your visits help support this podcast. Please remember that my first name, Cris, does not have an H in it. One of the best ways to provide feedback for this podcast is to rate me on iTunes. Please give me a good rating if you liked it, or feel free to give me a bad rating if you didn't. I'll use that feedback to make this a better podcast. You can also follow me on Instagram under Cris Alvarez Sci-Fi, on Facebook under Cris Alvarez WLC, on YouTube under Cris Alvarez WLC, and on Twitter under Cris Alvarez WLC. Thanks for listening, and keep imagining the future.